This is April 10th, 2021, and we are interviewing Terry Burton, Cecil Burton's son, and this is a picture of Terry. And Terry's daughter, Dawn, wrote this beautiful poem that sets today's conversation. And she said, "My daddy is a miner. You could also consider him a designer. He mines silver and gold. The mine shafts are his mold. He's always looking for the main vein. It's a wonder he doesn't go insane. My daddy uses a drill and pick that's safer than a good kick. If the mother lode my daddy ever found, he wouldn't be able to make a sound. My daddy will have to dig and dig until he finds a piece of gold that's super big. My daddy will grow old digging for gold, and he will have to resign being too old to mine." And so today we are going to tell the stories of Terry's old mining days. Terry, here's a picture inside a mine. Can you tell us about that one, please?
That's on the northeast side of Soledad. We was thinking about leasing some claims over there, but he let us go in and sample. That's me, my dad, and Cliff in there taking samples, and we're using carbide lights.
Terry, now up at the mine, they were mining for two different kinds of minerals. They were mining for...
They were processing, because when Ed Groves leased it and we rebuilt it, then we was running other people's ore, and plus his. And so this part here is the silver process. It's separate from the gold process. And when you're running a lot of silver, then you do a flotation process. And that's Clifford pouring chemicals that makes the flotation take the silver off and run it off into filters and collect it.
Now, Clifford had an interesting hairdo in that picture that you referred to.
Yeah, we call that Clifford the mad scientist, but
Okay, so Terry, after Clifford's done the mad scientist business, then what takes place for the silver?
These are pumps, and you have air that goes in there, and with the chemicals that he's mixed, it's metered in there at a certain rate to make a certain amount of foam, which is designed just to pick the silver up.
Okay.
And then it goes off and goes into filters then, and we collect it.
Alrighty. Okay, and then Terry, once you've collected it, then what do you do?
We dry it and flex it and melt it.
Okay, and so this picture right here is showing...
That what's coming off the flotation cells, the foam, is going off into this, which is filters, and it'll suck the liquid out. And then we collect the concentrate.
Okay.
And melt it down.
Now, Terry, you guys weren't only doing silver, you were also doing...
Just straight gold.
And this process right here, can you explain what we're seeing in this picture?
Well, this is the ball mill.
That's okay. Put in your finger there.
This is the ball mill, and it's crushing up the rock that's already been through a rock crusher, and it's a certain size.
You can stick your finger in there if you like.
I talk with my hands a lot.
That's okay. Terry's going to stick in his finger and show us what that ball mill's doing.
This is the ball mill, and it's...
Get right in there, yeah.
No. There.
There's the ball mill, and it's turning. And when it gets crushed up, there's screens in here, and they only let it out a certain size. And when it comes out, it'll go into here, which is a classifier. And anything oversized will go back into the ball mill again. And anything the right size will go out over the edge and go into that other classifier.
Okay. Okay, now Terry, once it's gone through the classifier and we have the right size, then what happens?
It goes out to an outside classifier, and the bigger stuff will go into the sand tanks, and they'll be leached separate, and then the real fine stuff, the slimes, will go off into the tanks and be cyanided out there.
Okay, now Terry, after it's gone through the outside clarifier, there's another process that happens before we get to here. What is that process?
Well, it's been cyanided, and once it's been cyanided, then it goes through, the cyanide goes through filters to clean it up, get any slimes or mud out of it. And then it goes through what they call the Merrill-Crowe precipitation process, which the cyanide goes through a vacuum and pulls all the air out of it. And then at that point, you start adding zinc to it.
Okay.
And the cyanide likes the zinc better than it does the gold. And so it'll go through these filters and the gold will drop out and the cyanide will hold on to the zinc. It'll let some of it out, and then it goes back and we reuse it again. And then after that, then we have to cook it and cook all the cloth away and burn off a lot of the zinc.
So this picture is showing,
After all that process has taken place, and we got it cooked
Okay.
off and in bags, and now we're cooking it to melt it down to get
Okay.
the metal out of it.
already, so you've already gone through a burning process
Yeah.
to get rid of the bags and the zinc.
Yeah,
And so now at this stage, we're just with,
Dad's throwing the precipitate in there and melting it down.
okay, and your dad is Cecil Burton.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Terry, after you've burned everything off, now what are we doing right here?
Dad has put the precipitate in there, and we're starting to melt it down, but from time to time you have to stir it. And then he'll take that out, let it cook a little bit, and he'll put some more and stir it, and he'll keep doing that until he's got all the precipitate in there. Then he'll close that lid and then cook it down. But from time to time, he'll have to stick that rod in there, and he can tell whether it's completely melted down or not, and that's another way of checking it.
Now, Terry, you and I have kind of joked a little bit about this as like making a cake. So this, with that rod, he's kind of like sticking a toothpick in a cake to see if it's done?
Well, he's mixing it, but yeah, that's he also can stick that in the cake and tell if it's done or not.
Okay, and about how hot is that?
That around 2100 degrees.
Wow, wow, okay. Okay, now Terry, so everything has been heated to 2100 degrees. What are we doing in this picture right here?
Yeah, it's been melted down. Dad has checked it. It's ready to pour, and he's in the process of turning that smelter and getting ready to make the pour.
Okay, so this big pot is called a smelter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or actually, this particular unit's referred to as a furnace.
Okay, so Terry, now your dad has mixed everything, and what's he doing right here?
He's in the process of turning the furnace to pour it into the mold.
Okay, and those molds, do they have a certain name?
It's a gold mold.
It's a gold mold, okay. And they're made out of what?
It'd be a cast steel, I think. I don't think it's cast iron. I think it's a cast steel.
Okay. Okay, so Terry, after he's poured, what are we doing right here?
That's the very end of the pour. It's just a dribble coming down, and he's got most of it in the mold already.
Okay. Okay, so Terry, now that it's in the mold, what are we seeing right here?
That's our cake cooling off.
The cake cooling off,
Yeah,
yes.
that's the pour. It's cooling off right now.
Okay. So Terry, after we have poured and we saw what it looked like from the top, what is this right here?
Well, after it cools off in the mold, then we flip the mold over and drop that out. And this is the slag, and the impure bouillon would have been sitting right on top here. And we chip around it with a hammer after it's cooled and take that off. And then clean the bouillon up, get the rest of the slag off it, and check this to see if how many beads are left in the slag, see if it needs to be processed or not.
Okay, so the slag is the leftover
Yeah.
from the bouillon.
Yeah.
And so the beads, you're looking to see if there's anything else that's
Yeah.
of any value.
Yeah,
left.
the slag is the flux, and the flux is what lowers the melting temperature of gold
Uh-huh.
and makes it fluid so it'll pour.
Okay. Okay, and Terry, right here, what's going on?
Well, we've taken the impure bouillon off the slag, and we're running water on it to go ahead and help cool it the rest of the way. But that's Clifford Burton. He's hitting it with the hammer and trying to get the rest of the slag off it.
Okay. Now, Terry, at the end of this is your finished process. So what do you have right there?
That's the imperial bouillon. Once it's been cleaned up, and we're just displaying it. That's all.
Okay, now, Terry, you look like a rather young man at that point in time, and it looks like you're with a rather young lady. Who's that with you?
That's Jane Webb, yeah, she actually Dad taught her to assay, and she was assayer up there for a while too. No.
Okay, super. And Terry, this is the final picture of the Tropico Gold Mine. And so can you tell us who's in this picture and what's happening?
Right here is Ed Groves. He leased the Tropico from Clifford, and this is my dad and Orville Willman, and they're just showing that impure bouillon that we'd pour. It was the first pour we made there after the lease.
Okay. Terry, now what is this silver substance I'm holding?
That is some impure pores that I've made. It's got a little bit of gold, silver, and maybe a little bit of copper, and I have to eventually put it in an acidic solution and clean it up and try to separate the metals from it.
Okay. Now I'm holding the very lightweight stuff. What are you holding?
This is actual mold that the Burton brothers had made, and I don't think they've used this one. I think they might have sold this one. It was found up in Randsburg.
And it says on it, Burton Brothers, Roseman, California, and we have our very own Burton, Terry Burton, here for us today.